Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer Blevin-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about creating job descriptions for your employees. Now this might seem like extra work and kind of busy work on top of everything else that needs to be done in a startup or early on in your business. But I'm going to explain why it is more of a big deal than you think and why it's worth putting the time and attention into it to make sure it's done right the first time. Once you create a job description for a position, usually you don't ever have to touch it again. Now you might realize you need to make some addendums to it down the road, but it's not something you have to touch all the time. Usually it's once and then done, and then periodically looking it over and making sure it still fits with the position's expectations and what's on paper. A job description is important for compliance with the federal and state labor laws. It basically will outline the tasks, duties, functions, responsibilities of each position that you hire for in your clinic. Now you will start off wanting to create the job descriptions for the positions which you are going to initially hire, and then if you have to add on additional different types of positions, that's when you're going to have to add additional job descriptions. Let's say you don't plan on hiring any other providers right now, you're just going to do an office manager, a medical assistant or nurse, and front desk staff. Then those are the job descriptions you would write. And then if down the road you needed to hire a biller because you decided to go away from the service you initially went with and you're going to hire an in-house biller or coder, then you would create a job description for that. Or if you decide to hire a mid-level provider, then you would do a job description for that. So definitely just do the ones you need to do at the moment. Just don't forget to do them as you add on positions in your business. The job description is very good for employees because it shows them what you expect from them in their position. When you talk about their tasks, their duties, their functions, their responsibilities, it needs to be detailed enough that it's not confusing or ambiguous. You want to make sure that it's spelled out pretty well. So if you expect your medical assistant to be able to feel comfortable drawing blood, giving injections of different types of medications and also different routes, you would want to mention that. If you want your medical assistant to learn the front desk and be able to help with scheduling duties, answering the phone, checking patients in and out, then you want to make sure that you add that to their duties list on their job description as well. I encourage in small practices to definitely make sure as many positions that can overlap and be cross-trained, do so, and also mention it in the job description. You will also use the job description to help you post for those positions and let people who want to work for you know what will be expected of them ahead of time. Maybe someone isn't comfortable giving injections in the rear or through Z-Track or something like that, and you put that in the job description and they might go, oh, that's not for me. I know that's not the best example right now, but that's the best I can think of at the moment. You want to make sure that you are hiring the right employee for the position. That's my point. You want to make sure that your job description helps you write a thorough and well thought out posting for hiring, and then making sure that you're using both of those to interview and screen and make sure you're hiring the right person for that position. Job descriptions also help with performance evaluations. It gives very objective ways of evaluating a staff member on how they're performing in their position, and it helps keep those personal feelings or those personal preconceived notions out of the picture. It keeps it very black and white and consistent with all people who are hired for the same position. You never want to be accused of favoritism or changing the rules for different people or anything like that. Job descriptions can keep you towing the line in compliance, regulatory, and also just to be fair across the board for all your staff. Also, if you decide to pay one of your staff members as an exempt employee and classify them as exempt, meaning that they are not required to clock in and out, they are not eligible for overtime, that kind of thing, then you definitely want to make sure that their job description will encompass and include all of the things that are required to be considered an exempt employee. Now, just having a job description saying that they're an exempt employee doesn't qualify, but it definitely is a step in the right direction. They actually have to be doing the work it says they do in order for them to be considered an exempt employee. And federally, there's different regulations, and then your state might also have some requirements when it comes to labeling a staff member exempt. So it's important to check your local employment and labor laws as well as the federal labor and employment laws. Another thing to consider, which not a lot of people do because it doesn't come up as often, but it can, and it's very reasonable, is making sure that you don't get yourself into any trouble when it comes to accommodating any kind of disabilities for staff, because you have to show as an employer that you are helping make reasonable accommodations for certain positions for certain people who have certain disabilities. Now, if you can show that it's going to do the business an undue hardship, then it will get you out of, or I don't want to say get you out of, but it will put certain people who are eligible for the accommodations versus people who are not eligible for the accommodations for that position. So let's say in your job description, which I encourage you to have for everybody, explaining how long people are going to be expected to sit, stand, how many pounds they're expected to lift on average by themselves without assistance, how long they're going to be expected to be in front of a computer because of sight issues and mental like headaches that could be caused and stuff. There's multiple things you want to include in there so that people can't come back and go, oh, I didn't know that it was going to require me to do this. Or if you have somebody who gets migraines because they're triggered by being on the computer too long, and you have a requirement in your job description that front desk people need to be able to be in front of a computer at least 8 hours a day without a lot of interruptions, or however you want to word it, then maybe a person who has to take breaks every hour or two in order for them not to be triggered with a migraine, maybe this isn't the best position for them. It would put the business in an undue hardship because you may not have somebody being able to cover for her or him when they are at the front desk and need to take their break, and patients aren't being served, phone calls aren't being answered, that kind of thing. So those are things that you need to think about that you probably wouldn't if you've never owned your own business or had to deal with that situation in your business, but a job description helps with that. Let's say somebody has an accident, God forbid, and they're a medical assistant and they have to be able to be on their feet for so many hours a day and be able to lift a certain amount of weight by themselves, and they get in an accident and they're no longer able to do that, but they want to keep their job and they expect you to make reasonable accommodations. Well, that's fair, but if you can't and it does an undue hardship where the person is really going to need to be on their feet that amount of time or lift that amount of weight from time to time, then it wouldn't be reasonable for you to accommodate them due to the undue hardship. You have to be careful with that, and I encourage you to definitely consult with an employment lawyer whenever that comes up. But those are things why you need a job description. If you have an employment lawyer that oversees your forms that you have, which I encourage you to do, and you keep them on retainer or they're available, I would definitely ask them to look over your job descriptions and make sure that you're not overstepping anything, but that you're covering all your bases as well. I would definitely ask them if they have a template that you can use for a job description that maybe can walk you through it and help so that you don't forget anything, but that you are covering everything. These are just some things to think about, and although it seems like something that you can say, oh, I'll do it later, or put it off and maybe not get to it for a while because so many things pop up and you forget about it, but it's really important, I think, to have it before you even post for the positions. One, because you will know how to post. You can use those to post for the positions, which is always helpful if you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It will help with the interviews. It will help with you finding the right person for the position, but it also will be done and over with, and most likely you won't have to deal with it very much at all in the future. If you have any suggestions on things to include in job descriptions for certain positions that you didn't think about before, but you've experienced it in your own practice and you want to share it with your colleagues, please leave that in the comments. If you feel that there's other things that would help with job descriptions and creating or interviewing staff even based on job descriptions, please leave those tips in the comments as well. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and hit the bell icon anytime you want to be notified of a new video that I post. And hit the thumbs up button today if you feel like this content was helpful for you. And please do not hesitate to leave any questions in the comments for me if you want me to explain further or help you with something along these lines or anything that I've done a topic on for videos. Take care of yourself and be well.